Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. This is episode 14 of the podcast. We are back for another week of baseball talk, and we're going to check in on the NL West this week primarily, but getting into some jersey conversation as well, as that's been a hot topic for this season. My name is Tyler. Joining me, as always, John, Will, and Bobby is behind the keys once again, producing this lovely podcast. And thank you, as always, to everybody who's been kind of following us on our socials. And we got some love this week on Instagram, so really happy about that. I'll plug our socials at the end, but make sure to check those out. But, gentlemen, we got a potential resolution on the insanely crappy uniform dilemma we've had this season in the MLB. We've all seen the memes of, players with see-through pants, jerseys ripping, the lettering being horrible. Well, the MLB finally sends out a memo to the players and teams saying, by next season, this will finally get fixed, and a good thing
Thank
again
God.
for it. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think the thing we've been saying is I don't know how it got tested, and they're like, no, these are good. These are good to go. Like, I literally the first day of spring training, you like see a player's nuts. Like, what are we doing, dude? Like,
He's walking into the plate with two bats and a bag of balls.
yeah, like, come on, man. Like, it's unbelievable. I'll summarize what the article said. This was again a memo out to from the players union, or to the players union rather. So larger lettering on the jerseys will be implemented, which was a huge thing. I feel like a lot of the jerseys looked amateur like because of the lettering. Fixed to different shades of gray between jerseys and pants. Again, something I don't even know how this happens in the first place because it's so visible, that it just looks so bad. The jerseys will be less. I guess the word I'll use here is they'll collect less sweat. We seen the picture of Carlos Rodon coming off the mound, literally looked like he took a shower after a couple innings of work. So that should be fixed. And the last and maybe most important thing, the pants will become less see-through. So, no more seeing your favorite players, whatever you want to say, to end that off. And the funny thing about and this is kind of what I wanted to bring up with this topic is the players union was like, Fanatics has been getting all this blame and whatnot. And they're like, no, Fanatics is fine. Nike, on the other hand, these guys suck. Throw them under the bus. And yeah, Will, any thoughts on this? What has been a jersey epidemic to start the season?
Took them long enough to come up with a solution. Unfortunately, we have to wait until roughly the beginning of the 2025 season. But hey, I'm just glad something is going on. This seemed like for a while it was one of these like, you'll get used to it. It's fine. You're all crazy. And then it was like, all right, it's Nike's fault.
Yeah.
Just like that. It was like, come on, you'll get used to it. And then it was like, all right, fine. Nike's at fault. We'll change it.
Well, the players union again, they came out and said this, but like I forget, it was early in the season. Well, you'll probably remember this. The Phillies were playing and they were wearing I think they were wearing their cream colored uniforms, and apparently Harper was like using last year's jersey or something, and you could clearly see the difference. Like, it wasn't even close. And like, I mean, the qualities of the jerseys were just ass, man. Like, again, I don't know how these were tested and approved. And as you said, at least something's happening. John, I mean, what is your thoughts about everything that's happened with the jerseys?
My thoughts are, thank God. It's about time. I'm not a fan of how the players union handled this. Honestly, I'm not a fan about how the MLBPA handled this. It To me, it seems like just playing the blame game again. Um, Regardless of whether you're right or not, you still shouldn't throw somebody under the bus. And the owners didn't do that because this is their corporate partner. So I get that. But I don't like how the players union just straight up was like, nope, it's all their fault. It's all them. Nope, wasn't us. Guys, it wasn't us.
I
You know,
again though, like I feel like at some point you're like, what more? It was a problem, dude. Like literally, we're seeing
no, I agree.
the outline of dicks. Like,
It's
excuse my
clearly an
French,
issue, but yet they
I
could have
mean,
handled it a bit more professionally. I think.
yeah, I mean, I get that, but as we said, thankfully this will take place, and the start of next year this will happen. So shouldn't have this problem next spring training. But it was definitely a whirlwind for fans after like the first couple of days when we're like, oh no, this is a problem. Like this is not
Yeah,
good.
and
We can't have this.
them saying specifically this is Nike's fault. Odds are it's that might possibly be true because with Majestic, Fanatics, I believe, was making the Majestic jerseys.
Yeah,
Um, Back when it was Majestic, that was the sponsor of the jerseys. I believe it was still produced the same way from the main company to then the store itself um, being Fanatics. So there is that aspect of it that is also a factor as well.
yeah,
It's
and
about
that
accountability in the end.
yeah,
Yeah,
but that was the whole thing with this was like, okay, Fanatics was taking all this blame, and they were essentially like, "Hey, we're just giving out the products that Nike's giving us. Like, it's not our fault." And I think that was the whole thing about
we're
it.
just
But
a distributor, man. We don't make it.
yeah, exactly. And
And that's fine.
and kind of rightfully so for them because again, they were taking a lot of the blame. Like anytime you'd seen something about the jerseys online, it was like, "Oh, Fanatics this, Fanatics that," and they did get thrown under the bus. But regardless, again, a fix that will be welcome come next season. But now let's get into the meat and potatoes of the episode. We are starting kind of a new, I don't want to say segment, but something we will be doing periodically throughout the season, which is check-ins on the divisions around baseball. We are starting off this the first check-in of the season with the NL West, and I think although it's early in the season, it's actually a really good time for this check-in because I don't think to start the season the division is shaking out how we thought it would be. Teams are struggling a little bit more than we thought they would be. And overall, again, just a good time to talk about this. But the standings as followed for the NL West: Dodgers sitting at 18 and 12, Giants in second at 14 and 15, Padres 14 and 17 in third, Diamondbacks 13 and 16 in fourth, and the Rockies. Well, we'll talk about four teams for sure in this episode. The Rockies, we'll see. But they sit down at 7 and 21. And let's start off with the Dodgers, as they have had, look, they're 18 and 12. They're 6 games above 500. They've been playing well the last week, but like a lot of fans were questioning them a little bit after their start to the season and all the moves they've made. Will, what is your take on the Dodgers and kind of their start to the season?
We knew going into the season they were going to have potentially some starting pitching issues. They had a lot of injuries to begin the season. I mean, they had a lot of depth with that rotation, but that depth was tested early and is still constantly being tested. So even with the injuries they've had to Kershaw not having Otani this year, I believe Bobby Miller is the latest to be on the IL. They're still doing pretty well in the top third in baseball in ERA. I think it's the long ball that's hurt them a bit, as they're among the top, at least in the National League, in that category. But their offense is exploding behind Betts and Otani, so they're able to ride that a lot of the time, regardless of some of the pitching issues. And their division is very inconsistent after that. We had a feeling going into the season it would be that way. Some questions around the Diamondbacks. I think two out of the three of us favored them a little more than what they're doing now. But it was tossed out that while the Diamondbacks are the reigning NL champs, they had a lot of potential, but still some wild cards. So the Dodgers right now are starting to finally put some space in between them and the rest of the division. For a lot of the month, it was maybe 2 or 3 game difference at most. And there was even a time where it looked like they were barely eking it out. But the Dodgers are getting hot. Betts and Ohtani are incredible. This team is going to take off as the summer kicks in and should be able to run away with the division probably by the end of May.
Yeah, I mean, you're already kind of seeing it. Again, they had a little bit of a slow start based on how people thought they would be in this super team, but now they're starting to get it rolling. As Will said, I have no questions that by probably May or June that they will be far and away the division leader. And, I still project them to have over 100 wins. I, as you said, I mean, it has really been the Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani show. Mookie Betts has been unbelievable this season, but as a team in general, they're second in team batting average, first in on base percentage, third in slugging, fourth in home runs, second in OPS among the league. Obviously, you expect this from this lineup, but they're doing it, and when you're doing all that, you are going to be in a pretty good position. John, what are your thoughts on the Dodgers to this point in the season?
My thoughts are, you know, this is a team that on paper is a superstar team, that they should be where they're at. And this is what I said at the beginning of the season. Honestly, you get this mega team, and the issue you have is that you have no wiggle room. You have no room for error here. You know, they are currently, as you said, first in runs, first in hits. They're 12th in strikeouts in the National League, so they're checking all the boxes that they need to check, but you can't rely on two guys to really, carry you here. I mean, if they're relying solely on Betts and Ohtani to get them through everything, then it's not sustainable, in my opinion. And I think that in the long run, it will end up costing them or end up biting them, um, especially in October when these guys are going to be tired. I mean, it will be looking at another Dodgers DS bounce. So I'm looking for guys like Freeman, Muncy. I'm looking for, you know, uh, Teoscar Hernandez. I'm looking for these guys to really pick it up, especially like Chris Taylor, James Outman. You have to hit above the Mendoza line here. It for Freddie Freeman, his batting average is 306, so he's increasing that. He's increasing that, but only 2 home runs, and we're at the end of April here. This is you're the super team. You are on the super team. You gotta produce here. And then obviously you have their starters. You have Glass now, who we'll see how his game is health. He has to stay healthy because we know how dangerous and how lethal he can be. Then you have Yamamoto, who's still unproven, who is up and down. It depends on start to start. Truth be told, he made a great snag the other day, and he's lucky his head wasn't on second base afterwards. But you have to not only, in order to win, you have to have depth. And the question is, do the Dodgers have depth? They have the stars, they have the money, they have the power. Do they have the depth? And honestly, with their record of what they're at right now, this is honestly less than I thought they would be. I thought they would be the first team to 20. Uh, and I expected them to be, before the end of April. So on paper, that's where they should be. I think you have nothing left but disappointment, honestly. You're not going to meet the expectations because of the super team. You might win a ton of games, but I, the Dodgers, I think they're setting themselves up here for failure.
Well, I want to bring something up because, yes, their stars have been carrying them, and I think that's the question with this team, right? So Mookie Betts, we've talked about his brilliance. He's the number one player in baseball right now. He's number one in batting average in the MLB, and he's leading second place by like 24 points or something. It's insane. Will Smith has been having a really nice year. Shohei, obviously. Freddie's been okay. And then Teoscar and Muncy. The problem with the Dodgers has been the bottom half of their lineup has really, really struggled. So looking at their stats for the bottom six, so the bottom three, so not including Betts, so Tani, Freeman, Muncy, Smith, or Teoscar Hernandez, and this is before the Andy Pajes promotion. They were batting a buck 84, a 250 on base percentage, and a 252 slugging. Chris Taylor, what a fall from grace he's had. He's batting 0.63 this year, or 0.063 this year, excuse me, in 58 plate appearances. He's striking out 40% of the time. James Outman is batting a buck 82 in 86 plate appearances. His on base
73.
Okay,
It's even less.
I was gonna say maybe my stats aren't updated because there was some variations, and then Gavin Lux too, batting about a buck 80 or buck 80 in 77 plate appearances. Hernandez, so like all these guys again. If your bottom third of your lineup is batting, a buck 84 within three players, that's really tough. Now maybe they're, I don't want to say they're savior because it's not that drastic. When you have six superstars, it might not matter, but they call up Andy Pajes from AAA, and he was raking in AAA. He's played 10 games for them at this point in time. He's had 42 plate appearances. He's batting 282, 2 home runs, and an 822 OPS. So look, if you're one of those bottom three players in the lineup, you don't have to do much, man. You really don't. But, batting over 200 is obviously very preferable. And again, you don't have to do anything special. You have all that star power, but that's where they've really, really struggled. And Will, I wonder kind of what happens with those spots. I know Jason Hayward's kind of been, in and out of the lineup, Chris Taylor and stuff like that, but do they stick with what they have? Do you think at some point they eventually make a move there, or do these guys just find a way to turn it around?
If they haven't turned it around by the trade deadline, they will probably try to do a move. The Dodgers have put too much money into this team to be complacent with what they have. Heck, we're looking at the Twins and what they did with complacency in the offseason, and granted, they are hot in the stretch versus bad teams, but they're still fourth in their division. So the Dodgers don't want to waste a moment with the primes of the players they have. I agree with what you said that their lineup is so stacked in the top six that they really don't need a ton from the bottom. Having Pajes up, if he can keep up a fraction of what he's doing right now, that solves one of the issues. They're back and forth with Lux. We'll see what happens there. And Outman could see some more bench time once Hayward's off of the injured list. As long as they're getting strong production from the top half, they're gonna ride this out as long as possible. But yes, if July comes out, there's going to be a trade, I feel like.
I'll throw this back to you real quick, dude. Do you think there's a chance that I mean, I know Gavin Lux was like once this big prospect and stuff like that. Like, do you see there's a chance for him to be shipped out or maybe sent back down with how he's been playing?
I'm going to say more sent down than shipped out because of the dire situation that the team is dealing with right now and trying to win as many World Series as possible with Ohtani. They're not going to trade him right away, if anything, because with his overall ability down, they won't get as much in return, most likely.
Yeah.
They'll just try to work it out themselves. Plus, we know the Dodgers bleed money, it seems like. At some point, there has to be a ceiling. You want to keep that homegrown guy around to try to help round out your team. Otherwise, you're spending money on everything, and eventually you're just going to have a retirement home for a team.
I guess that's my whole thing with them is obviously they're in win now mode. They are, it's World Series or bust for them. So and we know they're not afraid to spend money, right? So like if you have a guy like him that's struggling, I wonder if they send him down, get some development there because obviously last year he was out for I think almost all of the season. I can't remember if his injury happened in spring training or like a couple games into the season, but So he's kind of been unproven, and that was a big thing. And then there's a whole thing with him about he couldn't throw the ball to first, like all this stuff with him, right? And I think that that you just don't want to deal with that on a team like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe gets sent down. For Outman, I think they value him a little bit more than his numbers are. So I don't think anything's going to happen with him. But again, like Chris Taylor, one of the guys that was so good for them in their World Series runs before, like he is just a shell of himself right now. And it's really crazy. Like, again, I said the 063 batting average, he has no extra base hits this year. Like, that's crazy to me. But yeah, and then John, I'm going to go over to you about the pitching side of things. So their pitching has been, I would say, above average to good this year. You already talked about Glass now. Their team ERA is very good, and their WHIP and all this stuff. And you mentioned Yamamoto, and I know there's a lot of questions about him right now. He had his first start of the season, obviously, in that Korea series, and it did not go well. And from that point on, he's being ridiculed. It's been an up and down start, but 3 out of his 6 outings this season, he's given up 0 earned runs, and that's in 16 combined innings. And then, you do have those tough games where he let up a boatload of runs and only pitched a handful of innings. What is your take on Yamamoto at this point in time? Because there is so much criticism toward him.
I think the jury's still out on Yamamoto. I think, he's getting paid like a superstar.
No.
Is he a superstar talent? We don't know. This kid's only 25, and he starts his first major league game, in the spotlight essentially in Korea, which, for a Japanese born player is basically, a hostile being the there, Korea and Japan, especially when it comes to baseball. Had maybe the nerves to him. But you know, but when
Yeah.
you look at the just the raw talent, it's there.
Yeah.
You can clearly see it. Let it, you know, let him get through a season before we, call him a bust or not.
Yeah, and again, I think that, as you said, the jury's out on him. He's so young, but like people are talking about him like he's doing so horrible and all this stuff, and like you kind of look at his numbers. He's got a 3.54 ERA overall, and you know, again, you're the way they're talking about this guy, it's like he has an 8 ERA. So I think we have to stop the criticism with him because he has looked good in his last few outings, and he's starting to finally find his rhythm. And I think it's tough too because you're seeing other players come into the league like that have come in from Japan this offseason. I know Jung Ho Lee, obviously not a pitcher, but um, you know, I'm forgetting the guy's name already on the Cubs. Imanaga, I think is how you say his name. Like he's been one of the best pitchers in baseball. So you're comparing
Shota
all this
Imanaga.
to Imanaga. I couldn't remember how to say his last name, but yeah, I mean, like you're comparing all this, and he really has not been that bad.
Well, also
In
keep in
my
mind his
opinion.
age.
Yeah,
Shota Imanaga is also 30, so he's 5
yeah,
years, older than Yamamoto. And then also keep in mind Yamamoto didn't pitch in MLB. He never pitched in the minors, for
yeah,
an MLB team. So that was literally his first start over here for a United States team. I shouldn't say over here in the United
yeah,
States, but because technically he was in Korea. But like the lights were bright that day, and maybe they just got to him on his first start.
yeah.
So you have somebody that comes in with the legend of John Henry's hammer, you know, and if they don't deliver or meet up to that expectation, it's almost unfair, you know.
Yeah. We'll close at this point with the Dodgers. Will, I'm going to ask you this question straight up. Barring any injury, is Mookie Betts your clear MVP? Come the end of the year, is she going to win MVP?
You're saying that to a Phillies fan right now that's watching Alec Bohm do what he's doing.
I mean,
I'm
look,
going to
Alex
say
Bohm
he's
is
a heavy
great.
favorite right now, but he's not clear cut. If anything, also because Otani's doing so good. I think
Yeah.
I can more surely say right now, I feel like the Dodgers could have two people finish in the top three in MVP again. But to say
Yeah.
Betts is the clear front runner at the moment, he's got some competition.
I think at this point he's obviously the front runner. I think like, is he going to keep up the pace he's on? It would be historical if he did. He's playing out of his socks right now. Like, it's unbelievable how he's playing. But you know, do I think like I had said prior to the season, I was like, all right, Acuna, it's going to be Acuna and Tatis. Acuna has kind of come out of the gates slow, and Tatis is so. And again, Betts has just been absolutely crazy. One thing I did want to mention, I just seen this with the Dodgers is Brusdar Graterol, who they have been without the whole season. And there's no timetable on him coming back, but he's been such an important part of this team. And come playoff time, they're going to want a guy like this. His throwing program got shut down because of still discomfort, which is not a good sign for them. You don't know when he's going to come back at this point. He hasn't pitched this season, but had a 1.2 ERA in 67 innings last year. That's pretty damn good. And come playoff time, you're going to want a guy like this. So I just want to say, I think we need to look out for that come playoff time. Like if we know how important bullpens are come playoffs, and a guy like that, getting him back is going to be big. Evan Phillips has been huge for them this season so far, but man, it would be nice to have him back in terms of playoff time. But let's move on to the second place Giants, who have had a up and down year to start as well. It's kind of been like a really weird year for them because you look at their numbers and you're not overly impressed, but they find themselves one game under 500, and they just won a series against the Pirates. I don't know what their next series coming up is, but yeah, I mean, the team is still trying to find its footing. A lot of new pieces in there, and a lot to ask. But Will, offensively, like you look at their stats, they've kind of been just so average everywhere. Why are they where they're at right now?
Timely hitting and a good rotation. Top end right now. We can talk about Blake Snell and how Blake Snell is worst thing known to man right now and hurt. But Logan Webb is looking like another Cy Young candidate, and Jordan Hicks is on another planet right now with how he's performing as a starter. That was a huge question mark entering the season, was how successful Hicks could be. His ERA is sub 2 right now, among the best in baseball. And with him being an ace, you don't necessarily need Snell to be the guy because you have your top two guys right now in Webb and Hicks, and you got your young pitchers and Wynn and Harrison behind them, not doing too bad themselves, with I think a mid-3 ERA for Wynn and a low 4s for Harrison. That right there, if you had told me your top four guys are sub 2, sub 3, and then 3.5, 4 ERAs, that's a great looking top four in the rotation. Offensively, they're getting some nice contributions from Patrick Bailey, especially came in the clutch, Tyler, as you know, recently in that
don't
series.
Don't do it.
I'll leave my piece there. But also, Lamonte Wade is stepping up, especially with Wilmer Flores not doing as well. And there are signs from Michael Conforto that he might be finding some of his form from when he was with the Mets. So the Giants are very mid in a lot of categories, offensively and even pitching wise, because of the bullpen, which is a bit of a shocker. You can thank the rotation for where they're at now. You can hope that Chapman and Soler will bat a little bit better, though Soler does have the power numbers right now. I'm not sure it's sustainable. I have to really dig deep and see how many of these people I think can truly perform at the level they're at for the entire season. Yes, they have pitchers coming back, which will help, but they still have a lot of inconsistencies that they were hoping to heal up with their moves in the offseason.
I mean, as we kind of mentioned, right? Like, again, so average offensively. 14th in the majors on batting average, 18th in on base percentage, 17th in slugging, 20th in home runs. Like, average or below average in a lot of those categories. And again, you look at their team, and obviously their pitching has been good. At least their starters have been good, but it's like, man, you kind of don't expect them to be 14 and 15. You'd expect a few more losses on that card. John, I want to talk to you about the big acquisition from, or one of the big acquisitions from the Giants not that long ago in Blake Snell. It has not been the, Blake Snell we've seen last year, which has been a theme in his career, the Cy Young last year, but he's starting out with an 11.57 ERA in 11 and 2/3 innings. He hasn't gone above 5 innings in all 3 starts, and he's allowed 3 earned runs in all those 3 starts. With all that lovely information being said, what is happening with him? And do you think that him not being in spring training is affecting these numbers, and also the injury he just sustained?
So, can you remind me again of what specifics of the injury there are?
So it
With
is
this.
I just had it. Hold on. Give me 1 second. It was a uh, abductor strain. So take that as you will.
Okay. So I think his numbers are showing Snell was not ready for the season. Clearly he needed clearly he needed time. He didn't get it. Boris messed up. What didn't Snell, was it Snell that fired Boris, or was it Montgomery?
Montgomery, I believe,
Montgomery.
did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was not a good off season for Boris clients. It I'm looking at Snell's numbers here. 1157 is standing out to me here with his ERA. No wins, all losses. Um, it's it's a bit, not what you want from your star signing, and not what you want from your star player, clearly. So when it comes down to Snell, you're kind of left with, well, you're left with a lot more questions. Did we overpay? Is he still hurt? Is he hurt more than he's letting on? Is he this? Is he that? Is all of this the case? You know, when it comes to a pitcher that is the star power of Blake Snell, you would hope that you pay for what you get, and you would hope that he would have a sub 2 ERA at this point in the season, but that's just not the case.
Yeah, it has not been the case indeed. And, obviously it's early, still a lot of time to turn around. Again, I just wonder him not playing in the spring training, getting that late start, how it's affecting him, because it has not been good. But yeah,
I
I mean,
wonder if this is a true injury, or if it's, I'm trying to give this man some more work here.
I was gonna say, yeah, you hurt his pride. No,
His pride
I
was hurt
think,
more than his abductor, but
yeah,
maybe it's
again,
a real injury. 15-day IL. It wasn't. Clearly something is wrong.
yeah, and look, I think, is there time for him to turn around? Obviously, right, but this is the problem we've seen with Blake Snell, is his career has been so up and down. He'll have a Cy Young winning season, and then the next season will come back and have like a 5.5 ERA. Like, it's just, that's the worrying part about him. And right now, that's what we're kind of looking at with him at this point in time, and that's where it gets a little bit scary for them. A pitcher that has been doing very well for them, that I want your opinion on, Will, is Jordan Hicks. I think we touched on him in the preseason show with, this is a guy coming over from being in a reliever role for his entire career. This is a guy back in the day that was throwing 102, 103 consistently, and he now slides into the starting role here in San Francisco. The contract was also an interesting point of contention with him, but he's been really, really good for them. Like, I mean, you're definitely getting at this point your bang for your buck with him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he hasn't been a starting pitcher until since he was a minor league prospect with the Cardinals. They brought him up and put him in the back end of the bullpen. You just got to be thankful for what you got. Is all I feel like. You put 4 years on this guy, so they saw something or they believe something could come out of the situation. I feel like it was if Hicks was failing as a starter, maybe he would have agreed to go back into the bullpen. You just got to tip your cap and say keep it up because he's doing exactly what you wanted from Blake Snell, and so you feel pretty good about the situation of the team now that you do have two guys leading your rotation.
And as you said, look, their backing or not their backing guys, excuse me, their 4 or 5 starters, Kyle Harrison, Keaton Winn, they've been good enough, right? For young guys, they've been really good. Logan Webb is going to be one of those Cy Young candidates. They're up there once again. He's just so good, man. 2.33 ERA in 38 and 2/3 innings. And the whole thing with him is what you're going to get with Logan Webb is soft contact, right? Or not giving up hard contact. I found this stat interesting. He is 8th best in the majors among qualified starters in avoiding hard contact, or his hard hit contact percentage is the lowest, and that's what you get from him. You're going to get easy plays for the fielders. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but he is just going to get those outs, and he is one of the best pitchers for sure in the NL. Now, the problem with the Giants at this point in time, their offense has been mid. Their starting pitching has been pretty good. Their bullpen is atrocious. They are worse than the MLB right now at a 5.60 ERA. And I do want to say, as bad as their numbers look, there is a little bit of I think it's inflated a little bit because I was looking. I think there's a guy with like a 12 ERA that they have since sent down on that list, but man, that's not been great. And this is something that we talked about them, which we thought it could be a strength for them, and it's certainly not. John, how can they kind of ride this wave with the bullpen when their starters have been so good?
I mean, hope to get more depth out of your starters.
Yeah.
Honestly, hope they can get deeper in games. I think the Giants they might need to make a move. I mean, it their bullpen is really hurting them. For honestly, like you have the closer who has a 3.38 ERA. That's not what you want from a closer, especially at the end of April. You have Ryan Walker who is 281. Okay, that's fine, but then you have Eric Miller 554. Well, like, you know, that's not what is it's not that their offense is mid, it's that they can't keep up in a foot race. When you score 6 but you give up 7, it's a little hard to win games, especially against a team like the Dodgers. Like the Padres, regardless of what we think about them, they're still good teams and they have star players, you know?
Yeah,
So
and no, sorry.
no, you're good. It's just when it comes down to the Giants, you have to do something. You got to fix something, and their first what was it two their first 3 series were against the Padres, Dodgers, and Padres here. So you have that there as well. It's you got to take that into account, but at this point, those numbers need to come down. Their offense, I think, will as it warms up, will get better. Uh, maybe I think what would be good for them is to have a guy like Yaz hit over 300. That'd be good. A guy who's been there a long time and has a you know foothold in the organization as a leader for them, and have something there offensively, and I think they'll figure that out. But this bullpen, they've got to figure that out.
Yeah. And look, this is a division that we've talked about. It's going to be a coin toss for a lot of these interdivision matchups outside of outside of the Dodgers and Rockies, like, but when you have the Padres Giants, it's such a coin flip. When you have the Giants and D-backs, it's such a coin flip. So, they had a lot of those series early in the year, and maybe their record would be a little bit better. But I mean, I think that it's just funny. You kind of look at their numbers right now, and to me, it looks like they're more of like a 12 or 13 win team than they are at 14, and again, only one game under 500. Will, any last thoughts on the Giants?
So what I'm going to say in answer to that bullpen remark, I think the Giants bullpen is wrongly portrayed partially because of it's early in the season and blowouts can ruin relief pitchers' ERA. For example, Landon Raup, who has, or Roop, I don't know how to pronounce that, it's probably Roop, has a 6.17 ERA, 9 games. He's given up 7 runs, I believe it was, and 6 earned in his last 2 outings. Other than that, he's given up 1 in like over 5 or 6 outings. So that blew up his ERA. Duvall's a 1-inning type of guy. He's given up runs in 3 of his 10 outings. So he's been fine 70% of the time, and one of those times he gave up more than 1 run. The Giants are in a situation where you have probably 3 or 4 guys you feel okay with in the back end. One of them I'd even say is Taylor Rogers, even though his ERA is above 4. So they're just having some situations where, unfortunately, when there's some runs given up, they tend to be a bit messy. I do feel like the Giants bullpen will right their ship a bit and solidify the pitching situation. I do think John is correct with the keeping up aspect of it. You'd like for your offense to give your pitching a little bit more protection. And it seems like the Giants, at least a couple times right now, haven't been able to hold close leads late in games. But I feel the bullpen will do its job later on in the season. I'm not confident that the offense is able to pick up any more than what they're at right now.
And as you said, these numbers get skewed with bullpens early, and I was kind of looking at that too because I know I believe it was Taylor Rogers, as you said, it was kind of having a rough start to the year, but again, I know he had a couple bad outings and stuff like that. So I think the Giants, as we've kind of alluded to, there's room for them to grow, and I think there's a chance that they will, but I think the big thing that we'll continue to touch on with these next 2 teams, with the Giants, the D-backs, and the Padres, you have to kind of find a way to separate yourselves from each other and kind of steer away. We know how good the Dodgers are going to be, but you have to find a way to continually beat those teams I just mentioned and kind of separate yourself. Obviously, right now it is so congested because we're still in April, but I guess my question is who will pull away kind of first. So we'll have to see. But let's move on to the San Diego Padres, who have it's kind of weird to judge them at this point because I think I was a little bit higher on them than people probably were. But I think looking at their start overall, based on where they were last season, I think their start and their record is kind of expected. Well, I'm actually going to go back to you on this one first. Their offense is pretty good. They're top third in baseball in a lot of the offensive categories. Their pitching has been, so-so, but what's kind of happening with them right now to be where they're at?
Their offense is carrying them. I mean, their offense in baseball right now is top 10, I would say. But for their pitching staff is probably bottom third. So they're scoring a lot of runs, but I mean, that's seen in the Philly series. Their pitching was choking late and giving up lots of runs to the Phillies. So like the team scored 6 runs the other day, couldn't pull back and beat the Phillies 8 runs. I think it's the Padres just outslugging their mistakes at this moment. And the funny thing is, I feel like they could do even better. Like I said with the Giants, they're kind of I see a lot of players performing with the Giants where they're probably going to be roughly season wide or season long. They just keep that a fairly consistent outlook with how they're performing. Padres, I see a lot of players that are actually slightly underperforming than what I could see them doing. especially from Xander Bogaerts. But Tatis can do better. Machado can do better. Cronenworth's doing pretty good so far, and Kim can do better. So the fact that this Padres team is a top third in baseball offensively, and they could get a lot better, makes me feel very confident as a Padres fan that they'll be able to kind of jump away from this muddle of teams in the middle of the division. Pitching wise, Cease is amazing. Musgrove is horrendous. I don't think that's going to stick for Musgrove. He's got too good of a track record to keep an ERA over 6. Their pitching is still not the greatest, and I don't have a lot of trust in the bullpen outside of Suarez is doing a fantastic job in the back end, and Matsui was a nice addition to the team. But I think that the team is doing okay as they are around the 500 mark while they're not performing at their best. And so to see them potentially go even farther with what they're doing, I have a lot of faith that their offense will be able to carry them over the 500 mark and put them in the playoff contention.
And I think this was another point for us, right? Like we knew their offense was going to be good. We had questions about their starting pitching. When they got Cease, we were like, okay, they can be contenders now. And then, as you mentioned, the player I want to touch on, Joe Musgrove, he's having a rough start to the year. As you said, close to a 7 ERA in 35 innings pitched. But you look at his track record, and that's just not what you get from this guy. He's going to be a low 3s, high 2s in some seasons, mostly low 3s, though, in his time in San Diego. And you said all these guys underperforming on the offensive side. And I think for him, he's a guy that should be able to turn it around at some point and get you some wins. So I think, if you're looking at that, that's something you can rely on. Also, Michael King has, obviously was coming over from a reliever role over from the Yankees. He might still be adjusting. He's been okay, but I think my whole thing, and I'll relay this question to John here. Like, I think as good as the offense has been and they can improve there, I really do think you can get some improvement from this pitching staff. What are your thoughts on that? And I think just overall with their roster, what are your thoughts on how they've been doing so far?
I think overall, I think Will hit the nail on the head here. Everybody can improve. Everyone can get better. I said this at the beginning of the season. I don't see the Padres as it's us against the world team here. So, in saying, that people can improve, yeah, everyone can improve. You know, Jackson Merrill is somebody who have actually been impressed with. Um, Being that this is his rookie year, um, and that he is batting, uh, around just 500, 300 here, but towards the end of the month in his first year. So that has been impressive. I would like to see their pitching staff, improve. Cease, he didn't have a good last outing against the Phillies. I believe was that the game he gave up? I want to say, was it 3 or 4 home runs? Will, against the Phillies?
I think it was 3.
Yeah. So so that hurt his ERA, but like when you look at it, this guy, he is, he's giving them what they expect. It's everybody else that needs to pick up the slack here. Um, I have faith that Musgrove will turn it around. When it comes to their bullpen, I'm looking at, especially Tom Cosgrove, excuse me, with that 10 ERA, a 10.32 ERA. That's got to improve. For a relief pitcher, you have to be consistent. You have to be better. This is a team that should be in playoff contention. We'll see if they are. I just don't. I don't think that they will be, and I think that it comes back to there isn't a true team leader. Honestly, you would think it would be Machado. You would think that it would be Bogaerts, but you think it would be Tatis, but it's not. And I don't think that we're going to find that guy in this team, and I think that's going to hurt them.
I think sorry, I'm like continuing to go over numbers because so the other thing for them right now is Yu Darvish is hurt, and I'm hoping that it's not a long term thing. He was put on the 15-day IL for neck tightness. He's eligible to come back tomorrow, but you know you kind of lose him, and if he's out for maybe more time than they think, like that hurts them just with how finicky the pitching has been at this point in time. But it's funny, like we're talking about Tatis and Machado, and like their numbers could be better. Jurickson Profar is having a crazy start to the year, which that's kind of out of nowhere. Jackson Merrill, as you said, has been really good. So I think the hope for the Padres at this point is these guys can keep it up, or at least to an extent where they're not pulling down the team, and then Tatis will finally pick it up. Tatis, I will say, like his average is not fantastic right now and stuff, but he has had some clutch moments, as we've seen already this season, that has won them games legitimately. So you have that superstar potential with him. Already had.
But is he going to be that leader? Is he going to be the guy to step up there?
I think I really do think he can. He showed flashes of it. 6 home runs this year already. I think look, he's still a young player in his own right, but he has a swagger about him that other players want to be around a guy like this, I think. And when he's playing at his best, he's one of the best players in baseball. So again, the numbers you'd like to see improve, but
that's
it could be
the
worse.
issue is when he's not playing at his best, he's temperamental, he's not consistent, it's rough, and that's the problem. In order to be a leader in baseball, you need to be consistent, and you need to have and you need to be there. I understand that you won't give you can have a rough stretch where you go 0 for 16 at times. I understand that, but when it comes down to being the leader that they need him to be, it's is he going to give the same 110% during those rough stretches that he gives when he's tearing the cover off the ball and hitting 15 for his last 30?
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes, he does.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to judge from an outsider standpoint, honestly. Like, look, we see the clips on Twitter in recent years of him and Machado going at it and blah, 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 this and that. And I understand that. It's hard for me to say, though. He just has so much talent that you at some point, or you'd believe at some point, that it's going to come to fruition and he's going to pop off and that team is going to fall behind. Because, John, I will say, I do believe that the heartbeat of that team is Tatis and it's Machado. And I think when they're going, the team is going. So when they're kind of struggling or maybe not performing to where they want to, maybe the record isn't where they
Manny
want it
Machado
to be,
is a prime example of what I'm talking about. When he's struggling, he pouts, he whines, he gets upset. He doesn't give the 110% all the time. And that's just who he is. That's fine if you want to be that, but that to me, that's not a leader. So it falls to Tatis.
I think tough situation that happens. I think for their sake at this point, though, they're in it right now. Obviously, they're not playing the worst baseball. Get some series under your belt, and they can be right back into the mix of things, especially in that the wild card when that eventually comes into play. Because again, they're not winning the division. We've already been through this, but they want to be a wild card team. And now let's and now let's move on to the Diamondbacks, who they haven't had the greatest start. And I'm wondering, as you mentioned at the top of the show, Will, this is your National League champions from last year, and they exceeded expectations crazily. I had posed the question in the pre-show, are they going to fail because of their high expectations now? Like, nobody expected them to make the World Series last year. A lot of people didn't expect them to make the playoffs last year, and now they have all these expectations on them. And I just wonder, like, was this almost a given that this could happen or is happening right now?
I wouldn't say it was a given that was going to be their fate, but I do think there's a chance. I mean, I don't want to say for sure that they're failing to live up to expectations because when I look at like the offense, they're second in baseball in runs scored. They are coming through in clutch situations and timely hitting because they're not leading in home runs. They're not in the top half. They're barely in the top half in slugging percentage. They're among the league leaders in strikeouts as a team. So the fact that they are second in runs, ninth in MLB in average, I believe we talked ahead of time. Their team batting average with runners in scoring position is 300.
Yeah.
So the offense is able to manufacture runs and give themselves good chances to win games. The problem for them for a lot of the season was that their bullpen was horrible. It was giving up not like a couple runs in here and there. They would blow, it felt like 4 or 5 run leads multiple times a week. It was crazy. And now that Seawald is not in the is hurt, he's not closing for them right now, and they're relying on Ginkle there was just a lot of questions about like who could step up and who could be that back end protection they need. Now, granted, their ERA is starting to come back down to earth more, even though they're still middle of the pack baseball wise among ERAs. Their bullpen ERA, I calculated yesterday, is 4.22. That's not horrible. Team ERA is 4.03. That if you finish the season with that, you'd feel okay. They got a little lucky last year in that they finished with 84 wins and made the postseason. I don't think anyone would have told you before the season started that the third wildcard team would have only 84 wins, let alone I think the Marlins were the second wildcard team with 84 wins. So they were able to sneak in that way. If they can keep up what they're doing offensively, their pitching, especially in their starting rotation, is really starting to trend in the right direction. It's a bummer that Merrill Kelly is out for them right now. As a Phillies fan, big tear in my eye. But Zach Gallen, and now Jordan Montgomery is on the team and has had a couple good starts under his belt. They're starting to. They could have a very strong pitching staff, even with the loss of Eduardo Rodriguez, which I don't even know what his timetable is right now. He was injury prone entering the team, but it seemed like it still might be fine that they had him because he didn't need to be the top guy. You had a couple guys in front of him in the rotation, and then you brought on Montgomery. But right now they're starting to see that, hey, Rodriguez is a wild card. He can be really good when he's healthy, which has been not at all in 2024. I do think the Diamondbacks will struggle a bit in the long haul. Corbin Carroll will get better as he is below the Mendoza line and is acting like he doesn't know how to play baseball anymore. But they have like Ketel Marte and Blaze Alexander, who's stepping up for them and helping carry that team. Yeah, very much. But I mean,
who Blaze or Ketel?
Blaze Alexander is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
He's batting over.
Ketel Marte's done his thing for a while now.
I was gonna say, like, because I was gonna bring this stuff about Ketel Marte, but this seems like a good time. When are we gonna give Ketel Marte the respect he deserves as like one of the best players in baseball? Because he's been doing this for a while, and once again, he's doing it for them. And I know that I think in recent years he's gotten a little more, I guess, activity from the media because the Diamondbacks have started to get a little bit better. But I swear, dude, man, this guy is like consistently batting at the top of the leaderboards by the end of the year. And I feel like he's not talked about as like other players are. I really don't, like, in terms of the value he brings to his team. A lot of other players, and maybe it's just the market. Honestly, it might just be because Arizona, but a lot of these other players are getting talked about so highly when Ketel Marte, he's been there, he's done that, and he's so good for them, and he's good every single year. Like, we go through this every single year. It's like, whatever, like, coming into the season, what's going to happen?
He has not been completely consistent. He's
I
had
understand.
a lot of good flashes, but he's like the postseason last year, especially the championship series and even the World Series, even though they lost. He outshone everyone, was clutch in the biggest of moments, and that's something that he is clearly riding into this season. dating back to 2019 when he had his breakout year, at 329, 32 home runs, 92 RBIs, finished fourth in the National League in MVP voting. 2020 was 2020. He batted 287, though. Good for him. 2021, he had injury issues, but he batted 318 with 14 home runs and 50 RBIs. He was young at the time. Probably that was one of those flags that you would say, does this mean he's injury prone? Don't know. 2022, though, he really struggled. He only batted 240 with 12 home runs playing in 137 games. And then last year, he put up a solid 276, 25 home runs, 82 RBIs. I think Ketel Marte is the type of player. He's about a 270, 280 hitter, gives you mid-20s in home runs, which from a second base position is far exceeding expectations most of the time. And now he's proven to be a clutch guy. I won't say he is one of the top players. I won't say he's one of the top 20 players in baseball. But I will say if you want a consistently good second baseman that can give you some solid offensive production, you can rely on him for that.
I just feel like anytime you look at one of the Diamondbacks have had success, who has it been? It's been Ketel Marte. Like, he has been so clutch for them. And maybe that's what's skewing it for me, because I'll see highlights of him. I'm like, oh, guess who saved the day again for the Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte. And he's been so versatile throughout his career in terms of kind of where they've been playing him and stuff like that. Again, the start of the year he's had this year has been great. He's batting over 300. We'll see if he can keep that up. But
it's also the position there.
But I feel, and now I think he's more set in stone, but he's been moved around a lot with them, right? And like, I just feel like, again, if you're talking about what a player brings to a team, like, I'm not saying he's an MVP candidate, but I'm saying when you're talking about who's most valuable to their team across the league, like, for me, Ketel Marte is up there. He just feels like he is the clear engine for that team. And again, similar to what the Padres have with Tatis and Machado. When he's doing his thing, when he's, hitting well for them in the meaty part of their lineup, they are going to succeed. So, again, just a little Ketel Marte love there. I know we kind of went off track, but I just wanted to put that out there because he's been a favorite of mine.
Well, I think for him it's a little different because for him he is the heart and soul. It's obvious there. Well, for the Padres situation, it's not obvious, and that's the difference there. And I think it's the market. I think it's the position. Second basemen don't get a lot of love. They don't get paid big bucks. Like, it's not consistent there in terms of how that position is portrayed. In terms of star power. I mean, the most famous second baseman right now is Jose Altuve, and that's because he's on, the modern dynasty that is the Houston Astros.
Yeah. Dynasty.
Well, yeah. we'll cover them at a different time. That's next month's issue. Anyway, in terms of the position, you have that's also a factor in terms of him getting his star power. And honestly, when last season in the playoffs and in the World Series, I was like, oh, okay, all right, where they been keeping this guy?
Yeah, exactly. Learn the damn name. Yeah, and again, he's been great for them. And now you do have other complementary pieces there in Arizona where you feel like he doesn't have to be a star. I mean, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., he's been, great for them. Christian Walker. One guy that he's having a decent start to the year, but I'm wondering when that pop is going to come in too, is Jock Peterson. He was a big time, or I should say he was an under the radar signing this offseason that I thought was going to have a big splash. He's batting 296, but only the 2 home runs. So, man, if he gets things going, that's going to be scary for them. But Will, as you mentioned, they've been so banged up this season, and now Merrill Kelly's out for the year, or sorry, not out for there. He's out for, I think they said, at least a month. I don't know what exactly he has going on. Gerardo Perdomo's been out. Alec Thomas has been out. Paul Sewald's out. So, like, in your opinion, is this a team that's just kind of getting crunched by the injury bug right now? And maybe that's also a reason why they're struggling?
I think the bullpen had some question marks about it. It was a solid bullpen that led them through the postseason getting hot at the right time. There wasn't really too many people you could 100% rely on, and bullpens do have a tendency to really drastically change year after year unless you have people that you know for sure have really solid track records. The Seawald injury absolutely hurt them because that put people in bad situations, and Miguel Castro is out now, John's favorite player as an Oriole. But
Hey, former Oriole.
I think the one position, the one area they had some depth in was the starting rotation aspect. They had a lot of young guys that didn't perform well last year. A lot of them were kind of pushed to the bullpen this time, and now with the injuries in the rotation, they're getting their chances again there. So I do feel like starting rotation wise, the team will be fine for the rest of the season. The bullpen, though, is that one I'm really not sure about.
Yeah, again, we'll have to kind of see how it goes for them because, as you said, Seaward was such a big piece for them. Well, I do want to talk about, we mentioned him briefly earlier, and John, I'll take this one to you. Corbin Carroll was the breakout star for the Diamondbacks last year. He has not had a good year to start off. I mean, he's batting 189. The on-base percentage isn't much better. This is a guy that, we talk about the supporting cast for Marte and all this, or the just their talent in general. This is a guy you'd expect to come through. I mean, what is your take on him right now? Because this is not what I expected after what we've seen from him last postseason.
It is a rough start to the current reigning NL Rookie of the Year. And honestly, I hope that he can turn it around for his sake because he's one of those stars that, would be any team would be lucky to have. When it comes to Corbin Carroll, he has speed throw. It's, I'm not going to say he's a 5 tool, but he's, definitely a 4. So right at the moment, you gotta look at it like this. He's got to turn it around. He's got to get more consistent, and that's just been his issue here to start the season. Especially when you look at his not only his batting average, but also his on base percentage, his slugging percentage. Like he's not, he's not. It's been a rough start. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, offensively, it's just he needs to get better, hands down.
His on base isn't terrible from his average, though.
Well, from his average, but
yeah,
he's got maybe one of the things I don't know for sure because I don't watch a lot of Diamondbacks games, but at least looking at his stat line, he's got 15 walks in the first month of the season. That's a ton. He's basically on pace to try to push 100 walks for a full season. So the only two things I can think of are, one, people are finally realizing that he is a threat based on what he was last year, and not all the lineup is behind him. I wish I had a rough Diamondbacks lineup in front of me because I know players like Gabriel Moreno are not doing as hot right now, so they might be pitching around him, and he's taking walks more, but also maybe he's trying to be more selective at the plate. Now he's had a year under his belt. He's, trying to be an even better hitter, and in doing so, he's taking too many pitches, and he's walking, therefore, a lot and not swinging at other pitches where maybe last year he was overly aggressive. But the 295 on base, yes, it's not ideal compared to a 189 average, though. He's getting on base more than you would think for someone who's doing that bad. So I think if anything is just showing right now that Corbin Carroll isn't that the best for the team right now. He could do so much better. But offensively, the team's not doing too bad.
Yeah. And again, another electric player, so we'll hope to see if he turns it around. The last question I'll pose to the both of you, John, I'll start with you. With this Diamondback teams, as we said, so much potential with this team after what they did last year. What do they need to do to turn it around? And do you think they turn it around? Or do you think they're going to struggle for the rest of this year?
They need to fix the bullpen. I mean, like Will said, it's looking rough. Their offense is consistent, outside of a few guys that can definitely be doing better. But that's across the league here. When it comes to guys that can be doing better, but when you look at the Diamondbacks, it comes down to their pitching, especially their bullpen. Can they get better? Tommy Henry, I would like to see his ERA come down. Brandon Pfaadt, I'm sorry if I butchered his last name. I would like to see his ERA come down. But other than that, their starters have been good. I mean, it's really their bullpen. You have Scott Magoo, who's, and I'm sure I mispronounced his last name as well. Sorry, Arizona.
I think it's
ERA McGow.
I like Magoo.
I think
They got Mr. Magoo.
Mr. Magoo, let's go. Blind
that
old
better.
man throwing baseballs. No wonder they're getting rocked.
Well, no wonder he has a 7.3 ERA.
Exactly.
I
would
mean,
like
no
to see-
disrespect to the guy, but I love that last name.
I would like to see all their ERAs come down, except for Ryan Thompson, who I think is carrying his weight there. But they've got to get better in the bullpen for sure.
All right, Will, what do you think about this Diamondbacks team?
I think they need to fix the bullpen, like John said. That's the big thing right now. I really don't have much to add on to that. I think their offense will get better as Carroll gets better. A lot of other guys are performing roughly where I expect them to. Christian Walker, I still think, is one of the most underrated first basemen in baseball. He's great defensively, and he consistently hits 30 home runs and around 100 RBIs.
I agree
That
with
being said, with the current situation of how players are performing and how the record is shaping out early on, I am going to say that I don't think they make the postseason anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. Again, as we're going to continue to say, it's so tight in that NL West between those three teams. So I think when you're looking at who's going to get a playoff spot, the Phillies are going to, or one of the Phillies or Braves are going to be in it. Historically, it's been the Phillies in the wild card spot. The NL Central is an absolute shit show. You don't know what's happening there. So it really is between those three teams of who is going to kind of break away from that pack and become. And right now, Arizona's struggling. For me, I think they haven't had a great start. And I do have this concept of, okay, I think they definitely overachieved last year. And maybe this was going to happen where they were going to come down a little bit. And now maybe they're feeling the pressure. But man, it's hard
a
for
World
me to say.
Series, you think?
Well, obviously, but again, even for them to make the playoffs, but to me, it's hard for me to look at that roster and all the talent they brought in over the last 2 years and say they'll miss the playoffs, especially with how the Giants and Padres have just been kind of so. For me, I think the Diamondbacks will start to hit their groove and turn it around. Yeah, that is all for that. Let's move on. This is going to be very quick, and this is no disrespect to Colorado fans. I have nothing to say about the Rockies. We were talking about through the show before, the White Sox are kind of a talking point right now because outside of this weekend, they've been historically bad. The Marlins, they've been bad. They were a playoff team last year. They've been horrible. But the Rockies are kind of hard to talk about because they've been bad for so long, and it just feels like there's nothing there. And obviously I said no disrespect to Colorado fans. That was very disrespectful. I apologize.
Free Ryan McMahon.
Free
Ryan McMahon.
I mean, dude, what? Okay, the one bright spot you had kind of looking forward to is Nolan Jones, and he's been dog water, absolutely terrible. He's batting $170. Chris Bryant, dude, oh my god, he was honestly, he was a Cub, and he was still one of my favorite players to watch. As much as I hate the Cubs, this guy can't stay on the field, and he's terrible again. Will, is there anything you have to say about them besides they suck?
Nope. So I'm going to talk about the Diamondbacks one last time quickly. I got the pronunciation for Scott's last name.
Oh, I want to hear it. Can it be McGill?
Courtesy of my dad watching this. It's McGough. Cough.
Damn.
McGough. Boy, we were all wrong.
I want to say
is rough.
Nope.
Yeah.
I like Magoo. He's Magoo.
We butchered his name.
Nope.
We lose
as
how to pronounce basic names. So
as far as I'm concerned, his name is Magoo from now on.
All right, but now your Rockies question.
I prefer Magoo.
All right, but your Rockies question of is there anything good to look at? No. The team is destined to be the worst in the National League, and I do think they're going to be the worst in baseball still this year. The White Sox are surging, are going to be a World Series contender. No, all right. There's one pitcher that doesn't have, or starting pitcher doesn't have an ERA over 5. Good for you, Austin Gomer. Great man.
Gomer Pyle.
Yeah, Gomer Pyle, whatever. We're all about butchering names. That's the name of this podcast now. Is whose name are we going to butcher today?
Wait a minute.
have
You
three
can't-
bulls.
Whose
hold on,
name
hold
is
on.
it anyway?
You got Victor Vodnik. Don't forget him. Give him his flowers.
No. They have
That
other
guy.
people that I will no longer pronounce
That guy.
because I'm going to butcher it. They have that guy and the other guy, and good for them. They do have some young guys hitting well in the lineup, besides Nolan Jones, who, yes, at the beginning of the season, he was basically the only bright spot, and now he's terrible. Tovar's hitting well, and McMahon's hitting well. Diaz is hitting well, and Doyle's hitting well, so good for all of them. How is
Hold on a
this
minute,
team
hold on
not
a
have
minute.
any home runs?
Hold on a minute. I have a question for you.
Oh wait, no, okay,
You have Nolan Jones who's batting 170 right now, but his on base percentage is 243. For Corbin Carroll, we said, batting 189 with two and having an on base percentage of 253 was pretty good.
295.
Okay, whatever.
It was
That
over. It
changes
was
the-
0.1 over
Yeah.
what his average is.
All right,
Look,
You
hey,
lose that.
my dyslexia
Also-
there.
also when your team is 7-21, you don't get that luxury.
Oh, you don't get it?
No, absolutely not.
Okay.
Will, finish your thought.
The only bright spot really is that the offense is middle of the pack in baseball and average. Good for them. It means that they're at least are hitting for average in their wiffle ball of a stadium.
You can't say the same about the pitching, though. Their team ERA is a crisp.
Their pitching is pitching like they're playing in a wiffle ball stadium.
Yeah, the MLW is going to be calling the Rockies for their stadium because their team ERA is 6.06. Want to know what 29th place is? 5.1. If you do the math, that's a lot more than the second worst team. Like, they can't keep the ball in the yard there. Their pitching is horrible. Look, this is not anything new with the Rockies. We know how hard it is to pitch in Colorado. I get that. But when you're putting the pitchers you are out on the mound, and what are you expecting here? What results are you expecting other
I gotta
than
be
what
honest.
you're getting?
To be fair to those pitchers, I don't think if you put Nolan Ryan or Jim Palmer out there, I don't think their ERAs are gonna suffer too. And in all
I-
Baldo
fairness,
Jimenez. He's the only one that can pitch there.
Yes.
couldn't pitch anywhere else. Makes no sense. You bulldoze everyone else out of the playoffs, but when it comes to the Rockies, somehow he can throw a no hitter.
I just want to put this out there. I love us because I think we've got the most animated this year about the Athletics, the Rockies, and the
Oh my
White
God.
Sox. We are fantastic.
It's because we can
Uh,
have fun with
We
these fun
love
teams.
trash can teams.
And how to
Listen.
prevent pitcher arms. That's what we also have got more animated about too. We are
Yes.
very, very animated about how to protect pitcher
Oh, and the
arms.
Red Sox are frauds.
Oh yes, that too. John, do you have
Man, the
any-
engagement's just spiked up on the stream all of a sudden. That's crazy.
Holy shit, we have 1,000 viewers all of a sudden.
I said
Fraud.
it. I said it before Will made his point. I'm going to say it again. Hashtag free Ryan McMahon. Free this man. Let him go. Send him somewhere where he can be actually useful, and not just somebody that is going to pitter patter around in Colorado and be on a last place team. Ay. That's all I got.
Yeah. Shout out my man Brendan Rodgers. I said, this guy's gonna have a nice season, blah blah. He's doing shit. So that was the only good thing I had to say about them at the start of the year. And guess what? Look at him batting.
Tyler
235.
from Big League Breakdown thinks I'm going to have a good season. I'll show him.
This is true. Do we we probably have about 10 minutes to go over the Rays City Connect if we want to. If not, we'll hold off. Producer,
why
I'll
not?
let you make.
We got it.
Producer, I'll let you make that call.
like it.
All
Let me
right.
get some pictures real quick, but do the intro anyway.
So the next team to release their jerseys for the City Connect are the Tampa Bay Rays, and like a lot of the other teams, they went with a very modern look. They went with a very electric look, and let me get your guys' thoughts first before we see the pictures. Because I'm once again torn, like I am with the Mets. John, I'll let you go
Can
first.
I go first? Thank you.
Oh, he's
All right,
ready.
he's gonna take the rest of the episode. He's taking the rest of the episode.
Do they have dark pants? That's what I want to know.
They do have dark pants.
Oh,
However,
it's over.
no, here's the thing. I don't hate these jerseys as much.
Mm.
My critique of them is that they're going to be hard to read on the field, and they're hard to read in pictures in terms of the numbers and the name and Tampa Bay on the front. I like the name in the back. I think that it's unique. I think they went for like a spray paint sort of look. I think that if you were making a City Connect jersey and you wanted it to be, cool, clean cut here, I like this. I like this look from the Rays. Whenever Bobby gets the pictures up here, it looks good. I think these jerseys look good. I think they could get better just by simply just fill in the black there on Tampa Bay, and especially with the numbers. They're going for the skater park look, which I didn't know Tampa Bay was known for, but okay.
Yeah, that's what I was just about to say. so like they're talking about all these like what it means to the teams and this and that. Like, do I not know that Tampa is like known for their skateboarding and spray painting? Or seriously, I legitimately don't know.
Am I the only one that thinks that number on the back of McClanahan's jersey looks like a NASCAR number?
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing before you said that.
Am I the only one that's expecting to see that coming around the corner in the Daytona 500?
Can't believe you're picking that one after you just said that the numbers were hard to read, you absolute hypocrite. What the hell are you talking about, bro? Your jersey takes are so bad. I can't even believe it. This is like the best one.
I agree that it's the best one.
It's hard to read?
It is hard to read. Go back to the previous.
You have the colorblind guy telling you that he can see this perfectly. Holy.
Go back to it. Go back.
Right, then
That's
this
hard to
jersey
read.
was made for colorblind people because I agree with John. And I know
you're insane. You're insane. You're insane.
Well, Bobby, you're colorblind. You have no take on color on this show.
Hey, when it's on the nice grass field down there at Tropicana Field, I don't know. That green might be hard to read. We'll see.
Hey, Bobby, question. That brim, is that purple, blue, or orange to you?
I can see the number 56, and that's all I need to see, according to you.
Are you sure? Because I can't see it.
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
Look, I'll put this out there. I know the City Connect jerseys have been pretty underwhelming, but I do think this is like a top 5 jersey to me. I like, so part of me is almost like I'm kind of over this modern look that teams keep going with for uniforms, and it's not even just a baseball thing, because I know baseball is so traditional. I'm just talking about across all sports. It's kind of getting annoying, but I do like this one. The logo does slap. I'll say that.
I love this.
Yeah,
I like that. It's a cool logo.
The logo does slap, but for me, it's top 5. Will, like, where are you ranking this?
Since I don't rank City Connect jerseys, all I'm gonna say is I like it more than most.
I swear to God,
my only criticism is that I think some of the text is a little harder to read, and especially it'll be from far away. But that's about it. Other than that, I am actually fine with a lot of things.
I didn't think that this was also. I didn't know that this was like the way to figure out that you need your eyes checked, but apparently there's at least 2 people in this podcast who absolutely need it. Good Lord, John, when was the last time you had your prescription checked? Good God.
I am also a sucker for the green that they use. I love that that electric green is like one of my favorite colors, and then like the purple looks nice too, and the gradient on the jersey.
I think how they're using it as the accent and like the border, especially in this logo.
Yeah,
I think it really works. If they were to have overdone it and made the whole jersey this color, hey, but
Yeah,
they did.
that would be a
They-
lot.
Yeah, but they did.
It's the exact same green that the Stars used when they had those jerseys come out, like the
Yeah.
black with the neon green. That look is really good.
Yeah, and that's like my favorite color green. So I think for that reason, I kind of have this higher than other jerseys. But I, as Will said, I think it's better than a lot of the other jerseys. And again, not that
Definitely
we've
better than the
seen-
Mets.
Not that we've seen that many great Shitty Connect jerseys, but regardless, I think that one is half decent. But yeah, I think
Can
that
I make-
is all we have.
Can I make a quick statement
yes.
about this past weekend? Whose brilliant idea was it to have gray versus gray between the Cardinals and the Mets on Saturday?
Well, look, John, we just talked about how the gray jerseys don't even match the gray pants, so it probably wasn't even a problem. Yeah, two different shades.
Fair. No, 3. You have the Mets gray, the Cardinals jersey gray, and the Cardinals pants gray.
Yeah, that is.
Yes, man, I can't tell who's on what team with 2 gray jerseys on the field. It's not like there are a million other ways to
Who's on
figure out
first?
who's fielding
It's
and
not
who's
about
batting.
that. It's the
Jesus.
principle of it. Like, good lord. You could have had the Cardinals wear their powder blues for a game. It literally says St. Louis on the front.
Oh my goodness!
I feel like you just still said that you needed to see the letter on the names to figure out who was playing there, John. Wow,
Bobby.
man.
Bobby, you can't. If you go to the pictures, you can't read the front of Tampa Bay's jersey. Okay?
I can't wait for this to resurface at a later time when these.
I am.
actually-
Oh, well.
I'm just curious what's going to look like during its first telecast. That'll be the big thing. If it's fine on the telecast,
Well,
I'll pull back
Well,
a bit.
all right,
It'll be
hold
hard
on
to read.
though. Those
But
names
it
are gonna
does look
stand
like an
out with
outline
their
from
muted
the-
tones.
yeah.
That stadium is muted as hell.
Well,
okay.
honestly, they could probably play the game without the lights on. And you'd be able to see their jerseys, so that's a plus.
Maybe that's
Including
the,
the
point. They're gonna
numbers.
Have a blackout
Hold
game.
on, that's what it is. It's a blacklight jersey. That's what it is. They're playing with black lights.
I hate you guys, man. I freaking hate you guys. Oh my god.
And this baseball game is brought to you by Mountain Dew Black.
That is all for us here at Big League Breakdowns episode 14. Follow us on Twitter at BL_breakdowns and on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and probably more, honestly, at Big League Breakdowns. It has been episode 14. We'll see you next time for episode 15. Have a good one.